Hello, so this is my video number 4, and today I'm feeling really sick. I'm under the weather and I'm very tired, and so I apologize if I come across as very just like sleepy and slow. And I noticed that when I am sort of sick and out of it, I tend to like stutter, and my thoughts aren't as cohesive and clear. And so this is going to be a real challenge for me not to just stop all the time and try to re-record it, but I'm just gonna try to push through, because the whole point of me doing this is that I wanted to practice speaking more, and I wanted to push things out without the need for perfection and revision. So yeah, I'm gonna do my best. And today, oh, also, I just wanted to add, like, I'm really envious of people who can, despite being sick or under the weather, they can just like push through their entire day and, like, be productive, answer all their emails, show up at meetings. And like, I am not like that at all. If I'm sick, or even if I'm moody, I feel like it's just all over my face, and people can tell, like, oh, are you okay today? So yeah, I really admire people who can push through that. It almost seems like to them they don't succumb to those bad feelings, and they can sort of compartmentalize it and say, well, this stuff needs to be prioritized, so I'm not even going to bother thinking about feeling sick or feeling low. And I'm incredibly jealous of that. So yeah, if you have that, like, that's awesome. Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about like the need for validation. And I've been watching a lot of videos about lead FE needing validation and approval from the tribe. And it got me thinking, like, okay, I am pretty sure that I'm very demon or low FE. I don't really care what the tribe's consensus is or what they think, but if that's the case, why do I also enjoy external validation and crave it sometimes? And so I was kind of just pondering these things last night, and I sort of came to the conclusion that for FI users, I'm pretty sure that I'm a savior, or at least like somewhere up there FI. And I think for me, the role of validation is really to um, just validate my identity. So let me explain what I mean about that. I have a very high standard of myself in my head, and a very like idealized version of myself in my head. And it's something that, like, in a perfect world, I'm always envisioning the perfect world of ideal scenarios, and that extends to myself and how I want to be perceived, how I want to look, how I want to come across, just everything like that. And so for me, validation sort of helps me to compare against my own benchmark, like where am I actually coming in? Like, I have this ideal in my head, but is the other world, or is the outer world, agreeing with my own ideals of what I think about myself? And yeah, I guess I, as typical with FI, it is very, very self-centered, but it's about my identity, and so that's why it becomes so important to me, and almost drug-like in that sense, right? Because I was really grappling with, if I really am low FE, why do I care about validation, and why do I care about approval? And I notice, or I realize, that it's not necessarily approval from others. The approval from others just helps me to approve of myself, if that makes sense. So I kind of wanted to distinguish that as the whole validation type of thing between FI and FE. So I don't think it's true at all that it's only FE that craves that validation. I think, at least for strong FI users, it definitely has some type of role in approving of ourselves and our identity. So if you're also a high FI user. I'm curious if that also resonates with you and if that makes sense. But at least to me, that's sort of what I've come to conclude about that. Um, and let's see, another thing I wanted to talk about was for IPs, the whole FI depression thing. And this is just another reason why I'm just so sure that I am an INFP. So I mentioned in my last video that I have pretty much thought that I was an INFP for almost 10 years now. And I say that because, in high school, like they make you take those personality tests for like just like college prep and stuff. And I was always an INFP. And I remember at that time I wasn't very interested in this whole like personality typing thing. And it was because um in a setting like that, you want to get the results back saying that you'd be like this amazing, I don't know, doctor or like performer, entertainer, like I don't know. I had like these standards of what I wanted to be perceived as. But when I got back my results and it said things like, school counselor or I can't even remember, but like I just remember being so disappointed and thinking like, like it's so boring and disappointing. And I just kind of stuffed it in my backpack. But again, in college, there was a course where we had to do the Myers-Briggs, and it came back again as INFP. And it was, at the time, I was going to a business school. And so you want to be seen as, just like competent and productive and like inventive and all these things. But I just kept coming back with the results of me being like this healer mediator type. And so I was like, oh gosh, like that's embarrassing. I'm ashamed of that. And again, I just kind of stuffed it in my backpack and just never really looked into it. But finally, like I would say maybe like 6 years ago or so, I really, really started looking into it for just my own sanity and my own identity, because I was just so tired of feeling so different from everybody and so misunderstood and so separate. And that was when I really, really finally started to look into what is this whole INFP healer mediator thing. And the more I started reading into it, not from a perfect, not from a perspective of what is being expected from me from the outside world for my career or anything like that, but really just as my own identity. And that was when I really started to accept it. And I think that made all the difference. So anyways, my point is, I know that with this whole OP typing journey, I can't bring in that whole my old beliefs about whether I'm actually INFP, FI, NE, any of that, right? Like I want to be able to objectively figure out what my functions and my animals and my demons are. But I will say that there's still a part of me that does believe that I am an INFP, and there's so many reasons why. But one of the quintessential things about like Savior FI and just IPs in general is the whole FI depression thing. And that's something I wanted to talk about. Like it's very common for IPs in like middle school and high school to go through that whole dark, depressive, emo, me against the world, I hate everybody type of stage. And that was very, very, very much me. I hated high school so much. I thought it was just so fake and superficial. And I don't know. I'm sure a lot of other INFPs or other IPs might agree with me. And it's because we're fighting that whole um, you know, me against the tribe situation, not knowing why I'm not fitting in. And so it makes me hate the tribe and rebel even more. And because I'm not pinging off the tribe and I'm only in my head about how I feel, it's just like this toxic thing that gets worse and worse and worse, and I can't escape it. And so yeah, I think that's really the mechanism of what's going on, like behind an IP when they go through that dark, depressive, very very self-centered state. And of course now, because I'm older, I can sort of look back and I don't want to say objectively, but I can look back on these things kind of from an outside perspective and see that. But yeah, as an INFP, when I'm in those states, I'm very very much in it, and it's really hard for me to get out. And that's been one of my challenges. And this is also another reason why I think that I've started to become, obsessed with self development and self growth and respecting things like TI, and logic, and being able to see things objectively, because I know it's something that I've lacked so much in my life. And so and so like that also makes me wonder if, in Myers-Briggs we're taught that you don't you don't change personality types, right? And that's something that when I was all in the Myers-Briggs world, because I was certified and trained, it was something that used to bother me when other people would say, "Oh, I used to be a whatever, and then now I'm a whatever." And I used to like roll my eyes and think, "Okay, well, no one ever just changes personality types." So I just wouldn't say anything because whatever. I didn't want to burst their bubble, but the more I grow and learn and experience things, it makes me wonder, like, maybe we do sort of develop and strengthen functions that start to overtake our other functions. Like, I'm not really sure. I'm not saying that as fact or anything like that. It's just sort of from my experience. The more I devote myself to self growth, and the more I talk to people whose opinions I value, like especially NTs. I love the NT way of thinking. I love that, they're very conceptual, but also like the way they talk about emotions, and the way they talk about how emotions can hinder things, or it contaminates the objectivity of things. Uh, it I would say that really hasn't been my natural state growing up, but because I've surrounded myself with people like that, I I not only respect it and value it, but I think there's something to be said about, like, you become like the five people you hang out with the most, right? And in my case, because I'm so introverted and barely hang out with anyone really, except my INTJ husband, or my INTP brother, or my ENTP dad, um, I am very much surrounded by NTs. And so it makes me wonder if, as I've grown up, I've sort of latched onto that, and because I admire and value it so much, and that's why that function has started to maybe creep up and develop and strengthen as a muscle. Again, this is me just kind of hypothesizing and just pondering. I'm not saying any of this is true or not. I just wonder, because I am so different from back in my angsty high school years, and I almost feel like a totally different person in that sense. So yeah, that's just something I've been thinking about. But also, I know yesterday I touched a little bit on how culture and upbringing might also affect the way you suppress some of your functions. And for me, growing up in a Japanese household, um, kind of going back to the whole validation thing, you're as a culture, you're kind of expected to brush off any compliment, because to if someone were to even say about, you know, your own kid, right? Like someone says, oh my gosh, like he is so smart, or you know, like, oh, your daughter is so beautiful. Like as a parent, you're expected to push it away and say, oh, no, 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 no. And that is just a normal everyday like humility type of cultural thing. And if someone were to say, oh yeah, I know, I am so smart, or something like that, that would just be considered extremely arrogant. And so you know, I think for anyone who's grown up in that same type of Asian Japanese cultural mindset, maybe the whole validation and tribe thing does become a little bit more complex, you know? And so um yeah, I think there's just so many things that can contribute to your functions and animals, and maybe even the evolution of that as you age. And you know, it's like whatever you use most is what starts to develop, right? And I think even for me, like I went through a phase where I abused Adderall to in order to be more productive and more organized, because those are the things that I'm horrible at. And so I abused it in order to feel competent, in order to be productive, and to just sort of like put myself in the rank of, see, I am competent, see, I can do this. And it was very much self-driven, but I felt a lot of external pressure to perform. And so through that entire like Adderall phase, which lasted, I want to say, like a good 2 to 3 years, I really, really overdid it. I feel like I fried my brain, but I also feel like I because it was 2 to 3 years of straight grinding and productivity, and you know, not being able to be my usual dreamy INFP self. it kind of it kind of just you know, it strengthened those neural pathways in my brain, where I did begin to value productivity, and value time management, and value competency. And the more I began to do that and relate to that, I began to sort of be put off by just over procrastination, over indulgent dreaminess, and because it was what I sort of associated as my old self, who couldn't do anything, who couldn't get anything done. And so I feel like that's also another weird complexity, right? Like do things like antidepressants and Adderall and anything that affects the mind, does that also play a role in maybe shuffling and changing your functions, and strengthening the ones that you've been wanting to work on? I'm not sure. So I guess my point is that there's so many things that can factor into someone's functions and someone's personality type, that it's like the more I think about this, and the more videos I watch, and the more conversations I have about OP, the more confused I get. And in that sense, it's like if you're truly, truly learning about your demons, and I really, really like Dave and Shan's approach, where they say, you know, when you're trying to assess your demons, which really are your blind spots, you're not going to be able to see them. So it's more of a question of, where in my life do I do something like this, right? And that's where you have to confront yourself, and see the same shitty behaviors that you're doing. And great, I lost my train of thought. um, so yeah, sorry guys, this is what happens when I'm sick, is like I go on a tangent, and then I'm so involved in the tangent that I literally like break off from the main point, and then I have no idea what I'm even trying to say. But oh, okay, I remember now. So if we're self-aware enough to be able to start doing that and to start confronting our demons for what they really are, and saying like, oh my god, like shit, I actually do that. And it is embarrassing, and it is like a huge wake-up call when you when you're able to see those types of behaviors in yourself. But I guess my question then is, as we become more aware of our own demons, does that make our functions and our inner state more fluid? Because maybe with the epiphany of realizing your demons, and then understanding how to get out of that, or even just the realization of, oh god, that's really nasty behavior that I don't ever want to do again, maybe that shame and that embarrassment is enough to motivate you to get out of that you know and so if you're able to get out of that, then does that also again lend to reshuffling your functions? And basically, the more and more self-aware you basically become free of any type of label or any type of binding, like function or label or anything, because you are completely aware of everything. And I don't know, but like, what do you guys think about that? Am I, am I just like making this up and just going on some tangent, or is there some type of truth to that? Um, because yeah, like again, coming from the Myers-Briggs world, like I firmly believe that whatever you were born with, your personality type that you were born with, is exactly what you are until the day you die. And there's no such thing as changing, or no such thing as skipping functions, right? But now that I am looking into OP and objective personality type, it's really like, wow, there's people who jump functions, people who have double demons, double saviors, those glass lizards, right? Like, so if anything is possible, then maybe it's also possible that some people become enlightened enough that they just completely break free of any type of personality type. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I'm kind of curious. I'm really just like having a conversation with myself, but this is something that like I would love to like talk to someone about. Like this is a type of conversation that, for example, me and my INTP brother would have all the time. It's just like, if this, then that, then that, then what about this? Then and we sort of just like, enter like a whole crazy rabbit hole of if this and that, and hypothetical situations. And so yeah, I guess like these are the types of conversations that I love. And of course, it has nothing to do with looking at data or anything like that, anything concrete. It's more like just hypothetical brainstorming. But I don't know. I would say that it's worked out pretty well for me so far. And really just drawing on, um, reasoning, and also maybe like past experiences. And so it's not just like totally random, right? Like I am using certain things to ground myself in my arguments. Um, yeah, so i I don't know, like these are the kinds of questions that I'm always asking myself, I guess. So I guess, okay, so that was a long rant, but anyway, yesterday I basically talked about how is it possible that I am and have been lead TI, and I sort of explained why I might be perceived that way. And so that sort of opened up a whole new rabbit hole of, wait a minute, is it possible that you can rearrange and reshuffle your functions just based on your life experiences, your culture, what you are embarrassed about when it comes to yourself, maybe your education and awareness of all of these demon and savior states. Does that have anything to do with you know breaking free of personality type once and for all. And so, yeah, I, that's just the kind of things that I wonder about. Um, okay, well, I'm gonna stop here because I feel like I'm just like totally spacey and not making sense. I hope you guys were able to follow along with that. I I hope to feel better. I haven't been sick in a while, and it is kind of scary when the whole Corona thing is going on, and it's definitely the cases definitely aren't going down in Hawaii where I live, so it's a little concerning. But yeah, I'm just gonna take a lot of medication and rest, and hopefully I'll feel a lot better and more on top of it with my videos starting tomorrow. But okay, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.